Hello lovelies, it's Strawberry Calypso, obviously. I wanted to try a commentary video today, so that's what we're doing. So, as we get into this, I want to, clarify terminology in the title of the video that probably exists, but I don't think I don't think the meaning of how I'm using it is the same as, what other people might look at. So, when I say Americanism, right, I'm referring to this kind of commercialized consumer identity. It's more common in the States. I'm sure it exists elsewhere, but that's where I live, so that's like my personal, you know, most prevalent example of it. So, how does that connect to graphics cards though? Well, I mean, unless you've been living under a rock, or you just generally don't really follow computer hardware stuff, the new Nvidia graphics cards launched recently, the 50 series, and obviously there have been massive shortages. You know what else is massive? Massive shortages of the graphics cards. Like some places beginning single digit 5090s and only a couple dozen 5080s. I feel like this was to be expected, right? We all knew this was happening. But the thing I want to talk about is how some people have this sort of compulsive, I would say, need to have the latest thing all the time. It's it's very strange to me the way people are like that. Because unless you have like a 1050 Ti, you don't really need to upgrade. And even if you have a 1050, you don't need to upgrade a lot. I mean, unless you're only playing the brand new AAA titles, like what was that Indiana Jones game that has ray tracing as a requirement to run the game? Unless you're playing that, you don't really need to upgrade to the latest technology. I have a friend who has a 1050, and she's been her desired upgrade is a 20, I think it's a 2080 Super or 2070 Super. Like, it's you don't need it's she doesn't want to upgrade to the latest, and I don't think she should because she doesn't need to. The 2080 Super runs fine in a modern setting, especially if you're playing 1080p. If you're playing 1080p, especially the 2080 Super runs fine. Actually, as the background footage goes, I'm going to pull up my GPU comparison chart, and I'll probably insert this into the video as well. Let me find it. Let's see, 1080p Ultra FPS. Yeah, so the 2080 Super at 1080p Ultra settings, you're getting over 80 FPS in games. Now, granted, I mean that can and will change depending on the game, depending on the optimization, depending on fast ray tracing or not. But still, over 80 FPS is good. We shouldn't that shouldn't be a debate really. So when it's something like that, right? You don't need to upgrade to the latest technology, right? I mean, granted, if you there are situations actually in which you would need the latest graphics card, but I think for most people that's not a thing. Like if you're doing video editing or a lot of 3D rendering, then yes, you probably should have a very high end card like the 4090. Um, but again, I don't feel at least that is a scenario that people are going to be encountering on a regular basis. It's 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 an edge case use. It's a very it is a very slim percentage of the people who are buying and using a graphics card. It's so this sorry, I'm one of the worst things about this, I think, is that I see tech YouTubers making videos about if you should upgrade. I don't think it's a bad thing. First of all, it's like literally their job. So I'm not gonna rag on them for just doing their fucking job. However, a take that I've seen fairly commonly. It's not like everywhere all at once, but it's common enough that I noticed it, and I think it's a problem. In which the mentality was you should wait for the 50 series cards. I don't think we should be telling people that. Full stop. Even with AMD, if you have an AMD card and you think about upgrading, you should not wait for the 9070 to launch. Because you don't need it. You'll be fine without it, is my philosophy. So seeing people say you should wait to see what the new GPUs look like. No, you shouldn't. I mean, unless you just really, 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 I mean really, really want the newest thing, I do not see a reason to wait. You should just get a card that is good, right? A card that is a good enough upgrade from what you have. If I go back, let's go back to the chart for 1080p Ultra. For example, let's say you were running a RX 560. First of all, I pity you. Second, then, I could understand why you'd want to go from an RX 550 to, like, a 7900 XT. Or a 7900 XTX. I would get that. But at the same time, you can just buy a 6950 XT and get similar performance as the GRE and better performance, if you overclock it, than the 7800 XT. There are other options that don't, like, immediately involve just popping up to the latest and greatest. Now, I won't pretend like it's not a personal choice, right? I do apologize, because this is kind of like scattered around, kind of back and forth statements that I'm putting out here. But it is a personal choice. I won't deny that, right? And I know that at the end of the day, if someone is hell-bent on upgrading to the latest hardware, I'm not going to stop them. I can advise against it, and I will, but I can't stop them. And I think the most common argument that I hear for, like, latest technology is future-proofing. And future-proofing is a good thing, obviously. I'm not insane. Why would I ever say that wasn't a good thing? But I think some people have a tendency to miss the mark. And think that they need to future-proof by upgrading immediately the moment something new comes out. That's not how that works. Or they need to future-proof by going completely overboard. Like having 4090, 9800 X3D, 128 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM. Jesus Christ. Why? Why are you like this? Don't do that. You can do that, and again, there are applications in which I can understand that you need that kind of overwhelming power in your system. But for most people, it's not the case. And you can future-proof without doing that, and you can save money, because the 4090 has been at like a $2,000 graphics card for a very long time. Oh god, I think I'm mixing it. It's been over $1,000 ever since it came out, basically. Like, and that's just how it is. But you can future-proof without buying a like over $1,000 fucking graphics card, right? Because we're gonna go back to my friend who uses the 1050 Ti. That is an ancient card. First of all, that card is so old. It released in, let me look this up actually. 1050 Ti release date. That card released in 2016. That's almost a decade ago. There are so many better options that leave that card in the dust, right? I mean, a good example of that is actually the 1080 Ti, and that 1080 Ti is also a good example of my point here, is that this old hardware keeps up even today, right? I mean, obviously, a GTX card is not gonna do ray tracing. It doesn't have the capability to do that because it wasn't built to do that. But despite that, the 1080 Ti is still going to get you over 60 FPS in 1080p ultra settings on modern games. And it says this in the image, but I just want to say this verbally as well. The source for all this is Tom's Hardware. If you don't trust that source, that's fine. But this is like a comparison chart I see fairly often used by reputable creators. So we're going with it. But it's almost decade-old hardware that performs properly. And even the 1050 performs quote-unquote properly. You're not going to play ultra settings with it or anything, but if you're playing medium, you can get around... You're getting close to 50 FPS. It's not... This image is divided weirdly, but, like, you're nearing the 50 FPS region. It looks to me like you're probably getting about 40 or 30. Which is kind of buns. But overclocking exists. You can get higher results from overclocking. I have a friend who plays Helldivers 2 with overclocking. And, I mean, I pity her. I do pity her. But she gets it done. So my point in saying that, in all of what I just said, point in saying all of that, is that future-proofing does not mean you need the latest and greatest. You just need something that is good and that will last. If you wanted to be, like, within a couple generations of the latest technology, and you wanted to future-proof, I honestly would go for a 30 series card. Those are going to be good for a while, I would estimate. Example, I'm going to use a 3090 as an example. You don't have to get 3090, obviously. 3090 gets over 120 FPS, 1080p Ultra, and it gets over 100, 1440p Ultra. I don't think most people are playing at 1440p. I feel like 1080p is the majority of people. I might be wrong. I could be, like, horribly wrong about that. But it's my feelings on that. That card is going to be good for a while. Similarly, if you're an AMD fan, RX 6950 XT, especially with overclocking, it's going to be good for a while. And, AMD cards are cheaper anyway. Just saying. So, you don't need the latest to properly future-proof. I don't think anyone's saying that. Let me, first of all, just say that. I don't think anyone's saying that. At least, as far as I can tell, no one's saying that. But in case someone is, don't listen to that. That's not reality. That's not really what's needed. It simply isn't. I have, 5 minutes to fill now, and I feel like I've made my points. So I might just start talking about the game footage now and see if I want to cut out some of this stuff. Honestly, I could just end it here. Anyway, PowerWash Simulator. This is the vintage car. So, I will admit, I am on, free play mode in this clip. Some of you probably noticed already, because I had infinite cleaner. I did that because I knew I wouldn't be able to fill the time of, a full, 30-minute cleaning of something I actually, have not made progress on. I know I could not fill that time talking about Americanism and GPUs. I barely even filled this time talking about it. So, this is what we have here. I seem to have done most of the right side of the car now. I'm getting canopy hinge there. So, it's been a couple days since I recorded this. I don't completely remember my exact thought process on all of it. But, well, if I'm being honest, there kind of wasn't a thought process. I kind of just did whatever. That's usually what I do when I play this game. I kind of just watch whatever. And I'm sure that, like, infuriates some people. But we're doing the back of the car now. And at this point in the clip, I decided to finish off the right side and then go finish off the left side. Kind of just going by side, right, back, left, front. There I am using metal cleaner again. So I actually have an interesting opinion when it comes to when it comes to the cleaner in PowerWash Simulator. I feel like you generally can get by without having it. I wouldn't say you don't need it, because there are situations in which it makes your job infinitely easier, like this. But I think you can get by playing without it. Yeah, you can see me trying and failing to blast off that rust with water. And I could have used the smaller nozzle, but I didn't feel like doing it. So yeah, I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let the rest of the video play. It's going to be like a time lapse with some music in the background, if I can figure out how to do that. If not, I'll be re-recording this segment, probably. But if you're hearing me say this, that means I didn't do that, and I either did a time lapse or I just let it play for the rest of the clip. Maybe some people like that, but thank you for listening to me voice my opinions about graphics cards and consumerism and future-proofing and why you shouldn't upgrade to the latest tech unless you really, really have to, or really, really want to. I'll probably do more of these as time goes on, because I have opinions, and I like to voice them sometimes. So yeah, thank you all for listening to me.